It is a beautiful day for a walk on the farm.
They all are. Yeah, it's a beautiful
Yeah.
time of year now too, though. Beginning of October. You know, it's still incredibly dry. You know, it's really scary. It's weird. I'm actually irrigating. You know, October 5
October.
seems strange. October
Yeah.
5, it's just a weird thing. But like right this second, we're running water to crops. But other than that, you know, the air is cooler and it's more crisp. It's warm enough that we'll continue to get crop development on stuff that we planted, you know, late for our second harvest. And a lot of the crops is just coming to a close also. So I thought today maybe we just take a look at focus on a couple of crops and on harvesting them and what they would look like. They've been going a long time. What do they look like at this part of the season in October? How much longer can they go? So I just look at that, like how much longer can they go?
How long can they go?
You know, some of these plants like the peppers and field tomatoes, paste tomatoes, and the tomatoes in the tunnel. You know, they've been going for months now. And so let's take a
go
look at
see.
that. Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay. All right. These pepper plants, it's October 5, so it's late in the season, and pepper plants are generally a hot season crop, a warm season crop. They thrive in the heat. They're like a subtropical plant, but they continue to make their fruit. They're prodigious if you take care of them and keep them relatively weed-free, which we have using the black plastic. They will continue to produce for you well into the fall, as we can see here. I'm being selective even. I'm still thinking there might be a couple more weeks of growing. So like I'm gonna take this one and leave one that's this size generally. Because I'm still thinking, hey, they might even get some more size. I don't have to take them all yet. And as far as frosts go, we've actually already had 4 freezing nights. 4. And they occurred one after another. With the first one being on September 19. September 19, which is very, very early for these parts. But the plants made it through the frost. The no frost settled here. The field kind of has a bow in it, a hill, and it's kind of on a slope. So we didn't see any frost production back in here. It was kind of protected by this wall of Venn cucumbers and the beans, and there was no frost enough to damage. There was only a few damaged fruit. So we're going to keep picking these right up through to the 20th week, which will take us to the end of October, almost to the end of October. So 3 more weeks of peppers. And they just keep coming. It's great. Looking at these 2 crops side by side, this is an annual. This is the melon crop, the muskmelon. And right beside it here with this big hedge, those are our strawberries. It's a 1-year-old crop. They'll come in next year again because they're a perennial. So they'll be back to fruit again. These are done. So we'll be pulling these vines out. We've got good harvests out of them and distributed quite a bit to the members. We were pleased with what we got out. Now we're down to the plants are somehow still alive, many of the vines, but most of them are dead. So we get at the end the gleanings, like in any crop at the end, the gleanings we call it. That's left over as you're going through the dying plants. What can you salvage out at the end? And every year without fail, during the harvest, I'm not seeing it, but sure enough, one of these will turn up like a perfect melon. Somehow the rodents missed, it went through the freezes, and during the harvest, when we were harvesting for the members, it was here, but it just came on late. But yeah, there it is. This was for me. She left this one for me, this row, and I'll feast on this for breakfast tomorrow morning. This will be really nice, this muskmelon. But yeah, now we pull the plants. You know, no sentimentality. Get her to the compost as soon as possible. These are the Amish paste tomatoes. And exactly as it says, it's a tomato for making sauces out of. Here's another great one. When you get a nice big ones like this is far superior to the Roma type, which we're all familiar with for making sauces. It's much meatier. It has a very interesting flavor and texture to your sauces. Builds them much quicker. It can make a sauce with these much quicker. It adds more volume than your typical slicing tomato. But it's October 5, and but the plants did remarkably well. As I look up and down the row here, I see some dead plants, some dead leaves in here. There's a hidden there. Obviously what they would have to kind of be at this stage of this game. But as you can see, the plants still have some green color to them, but not too green. So we probably fertilize them about the right amount. They're running out just at the end. And we'll get our final harvest from them. So no major diseases. They got 1 spray the whole season. was during the height of the danger of getting the blights, and I used potassium bicarbonate, which is an organically approved fungicide. Organic growers like to use. So I put that on, I timed it well, I guess, and also the fact that it never rained, that's a big reason I think maybe this year if people had more luck with their tomato plants in their yard, because most of these diseases need wet leaves for the disease to spread. And with it never raining out, there wasn't much disease moving around, I think. It was a benefit of the drought. And we had irrigation underneath this too, so we kept this well irrigated the whole time. There's a tube under here. I'm gonna come through here and pull the tomatoes off, and what point I wanted to make was the definition of what is a breaker for a tomato. It's very important as to will the tomato ripen or not. Okay, if the tomato on the plant has gone from completely green to making this orange color, it's now considered a breaker, and this will ripen. This will come off, this will ripen perfectly off the plant. Doesn't have to be on a windowsill. Light has nothing to do with this ripening. Just leave it on a bag or leave it on a table at room temperature, and it'll ripen, fully ripe. So I'm coming through here. Those are the ones I'm looking for. I want breakers. Your eye draws you right to it, because your eye is drawn to know what's the ripe fruit. We're drawn to that red color as much as any animal is. If it's completely green and you take it off completely green, it's not going to ripen. It's not. That's what we want to get them off, but we want to leave them on longer because to get them into the breaker stage. So we still got to keep coming through and taking just the breakers. Let the plant continue the ripening process on the plant till they reach the breaker stage, then take them. You've seen it happen. You've sometimes harvested tomatoes and thinking, well, why didn't it ripen? That's why. You took it off a little bit too early. Once this gets turned on, no forces now in nature are going to stop this reaction from occurring, and it's going to start making sugars and pigments that it doesn't now contain. It's all about the plant's goal is to make seed, is to make ripe seed. But actually, the fruit, once it gets to that full green color, right here, this actually already has seed that will germinate. At this stage, it already has it. Seems unusual, but it's true. With the tomato, this green fruit, you cut it open, it's not gonna be very tasty. You can eat it, you can fry it, there's all kinds of things you can do with it. Actually, probably be very tasty if you know how to cook it. But it's not gonna be tasty compared to the red one. It hasn't made all those chemicals yet. It hasn't produced those. It's a chemical factory in here. And it only initiate the process on the plant. If you take the green one off, it's not gonna initiate that process. All right, one other quick thing as we're going through here, patiently waiting and taking our breakers each day. The other thing you can see is the positive results we got from doing our top pruning. At the right time of year, when we calculated ahead how many days we had left coming up to these days, we wanted to be able to show we could ripen all the fruit on the plant and didn't have a lot of extraneous fruit at the top, small little green fruit that'll never get ripened. As we look through here, you don't see a lot. This is the kind of thing I'm talking about, like up here where this one got away from us and we made it an extraneous fruit. That's just wasted energy, but there's not a lot of that. As you look your way down, we did a pretty good job topping them. So that means these fruit now are getting the energy to ripen, and now these are all breakers and they're basically done. I see the breaking on them, I can take these, and this is a direct result of having topped this plant off at the top that we're getting these right now. And what you want to see at the end is like basically no fruit, that you've ripened all the fruit that were on. You don't want to have any green left. That'll show you that you were pruning properly during the season if you have no fruit at the end.
Doesn't that to an extent have to do with the weather?
Weather, everything does. So I can't say no to that. But
largely, if we go on like this for another 3 or 4 weeks, as opposed to having a series of frosts, wouldn't that make a difference until when you get ripened?
Nope, it wouldn't. Here's why. I'm glad you asked that. The reason is these plants are not temperature driven for ripening. There's an ideal temperature at which they will ripen, but they're still in that range. And it's like 60, they like it. It's day length. It's day length, it's not temperature. Actually, more accurately, is night length. As the nights get really long, these plants are no longer, they're done and not gonna do any further ripening. And there's nothing you can do about it, even no matter how warm it was. So they're about done. I think we probably have another 10 more days. So I'll come through it to the end. We'll see how many of these we get off, if not all of them. But then it's just too late. It doesn't matter. And that's exactly what you wanted. You're trying to play right to that date as close as you can when you're even putting your plants in to begin with. But yeah, So there's nothing you can do but the daylight shutting you down, unless you're in a greenhouse with lighting. See, this is good here. As I come through and I see there's no fruit, that means we ripened it all.
I have a message or feedback or critique from my wife. She loves the tomatoes and she loves the apples. And she says she's overwhelmed with peppers. They're coming out her ears along with the steam when she eats them, and she doesn't know what to do with them.
I'll tell you what, there are a lot of peppers, and the crops could have been terminated, you know, 2 weeks ago with the frost, but they made it through the frost. Is what I'm going for, and I'm going for big yields. And they really like this weather. And but the thing to always remember with your peppers is that it's the absolute easiest crop to preserve, because you just dice them up or slice them up and freeze them. There's no blanching necessary, and then you can eat them. You take them out all season long, pull them out of that bag, Ziploc bag, and throw them into your saute or into your omelet. You know, yeah. So you can just reuse them, and they're really that easy to preserve. Just chop them up. I freeze them out first. Put them on the cookie sheet method first, so they won't freeze in one big lump. So let them freeze separately. Take them out, bunch them up. You know the drill. Put them in the plastic bag, and now you can reach in for them. So, and in the freezer, they don't take up as much room. Once you chop them up and clean from the inside, a lot of peppers actually going to fit into that one Ziploc bag. And so if you have freezer space at all,
I'll make space.
Yeah, you can make space.
I
Or
love
when you're in a CSA, you may consider having a supplemental freezer, having another freezer, because you can do that, preserve stuff and have it all season long, you know, in the winter time too. So
Cool.
Yeah, freeze them. Freeze the
Okay.
peppers, Heller.
I will. Thanks.
Yep.
I was interested to see how long the tomatoes are going.
Yeah.
And it's great. It's great. It's beautiful. I hope it stays like this.
The
I know, of
foliage
course
is nice,
it
but the foliage is come and gone. It went fast. It came quickly and it's over. It was
It sure
vibrant.
did.
Yeah, it came quickly.
Sure did.
Yep, with those early freezes. So.
Oh, you think that? I thought it had to do with the dryness.
But that too, of course.
Yeah.
These trees that just want to shed these leaves at this point, cut their losses. The deciduous trees, these hardwoods at this point, they just want those leaves off.
It's interesting how some keep them. The oak here is
He's always the last. He's
oak
always
and,
one of the
and
last.
beech. Yeah.
Yep.
I hope we get some snow this winter because we sure need
That will
to-
be vital to get snow.
Yeah.
This winter, because last winter we didn't we were so far below, and then we had the drought. So yeah, snow will be very important. I just know that we were really lacking in snow. There was no snow melt in the spring. There wasn't any. There was no snow pack to melt. It was already gone by March. I remember that.
It's interesting. I always thought about California and other places as where the drought would hit from the changing climate, but New England too.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, the trend towards dryness is here. We've seen it. Absolutely. This is not the only drought. We've had numerous droughts over the last 10 years.
Okay, nice to see you.
Thanks for coming by.
My pleasure always.
Okay.